because he was in Florida. And a great consultant he is. He got paid $485,000 as a consultant fee. And Mr. Tata was in Florida. And also, when this lawsuit came up, Mr. Tata says, let me alone, I'm retired. Well, it doesn't say here that he's retired. It says because Mr. Tata provided substantially all of his professional time to the company during 1993. And it was during 1993 that Cablevision broke a law, a state law, and broke a federal law. Under the applicable award agreement, the vesting of the bonus award shares, stock options, and SARs granted to employees including Messrs. Kofalt, Bell, Lustgarten, and Lemley. And then we have Charles Dolan, Charles Dolan, Charles Dolan all over the place. It's greedy and it's crooked. The compensation committee, guess who's on the compensation committee? Charles Dolan, John Tata, and a man named Hockman. I imagine Hockman has nothing to say. The company has made investments in advances to certain affiliates over which Charles Dolan is the managing general partner, or in which Mr. Dolan or Dolan family interests have substantial ownership interests. At December 31st, 1993, such investments and advances to such affiliates aggregated approximately $35 million, consisting of $17.5 million for Cablevision of Boston, Cablevision of Chicago, and Atlantic Cable Television Publishing. They make a lot of money publishing the schedules that you read to find out what programs are on. Cablevision Boston, Charles Dolan holds directly or indirectly. Cablevision Chicago, Charles Dolan holds $12.4 million plus $10.1 million. And remember last week I read you the conflict of interest statement that they had to make? My report as to what happened in the Judge Silverman courtroom on July the 14th, 1994, when Cablevision lost this lawsuit before Judge Silverman. My report on that is all typed for you except one page, and so I will defer reading that to you until next week. But also next week I'll be able to read you the minutes. Rochelle called me up this morning, which is July the 29th, 1994, Thursday, and told me that the minutes were all typed. I could pick them up and they only cost $84 instead of $150. Not received Judge Silverman's decision written. We got it orally from the bench, but we haven't received it written. You know how the New York State Supreme Court is. Covers it, what happened on Glendora versus Dolan and Kofalt and Lustgarten and Lemley and Tata and all those people who broke the two laws, the state law and the federal law, on the week of July the 21st to July the 29th. At least I have a mind of my own. Annette says, at least I have a mind of my own, and her mother-in-law says, who else would want it? And Paul says that an earthquake is caused by two massive forces pushing against a fault. He says it's like being stuck between your wife and your mother-in-law. Undies, when he goes riding on his motorcycle. He calls it his long Honda-wear. You take care, folks. I think that does it. I hope that does it. For the week of July the 21st to 29th, on a chat with Glendora, and keeping up with all of these lawbreakers and trying to bring them to justice as we wander through purgatory and hell, Dante's Inferno, Dante's Divine Comedy, written in the 12th century A.D. And purgatory is my name for what happens in the New York courts. Here we are, folks, at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and this is on the 29th of July, 1994, Friday, and the time is 12:45 p.m., and this is the Lincoln that drove us all the way here from White Plains, New York. The Student Center, Fairleigh Dickinson University. Giants in practice.
Right.
Okay.
Wonder who's screwing us up.
And he's the head of public relations.
I'm trying Whitey. I think they obviously didn't bring them down here. They might have them in that back closet.
We need to get that signed at the beginning of the week.
This
We're
is
getting
Aaron
2 balls, I
Salkin,
hope,
Aaron Salkin, and he's a graduate of Syracuse
that we
University.
need to get signed first thing Monday morning.
This is July the 29th, 1994, Friday. Four, three, two, one. Hi there, everybody. We're out at Fairleigh Dickinson University again this year, and we're talking to Ronnie Barnes, who is the head trainer.
Yeah, that's right.
For the New York Giants, and Ronnie and I are going to talk about what's new in sports medicine, and Jason is on the camera, and he's from UCLA and a sophomore, and he's training to be a trainer. Ronnie, what's new in sports medicine?
Well, there's lots new in sports medicine, and I think the biggest cutting edge is rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation?
That probably, in the last 5 years or so, has been a real key to the success in sports medicine. We're getting athletes back from major surgery, in particular anterior cruciate ligament surgeries, in about 7 months. And they used to take a year to 2 years, and sometimes it would end their career. So I think the rehabilitation phase of sports medicine is really what's hot and what's new.
Oh, that's great. Now, how long has this been coming?
Well, I think over the last 10 years,
Last 10 years.
we have been working on different protocols for injury. We've been working with surgeons who've been doing new surgical techniques, including arthroscopy, the use of the arthroscope.
What is that?
Well, that is an instrument that physicians can look inside the knee, see a torn cartilage or ligament, and fix it through that same little hole.
Really?
So as the surgeons increase their skills, on our side as trainers in rehabilitation, we have to increase our skills. So some of their procedures are becoming less invasive. They don't have to make big, long scars, and so they can get back to play for the Giants sooner.
Ronnie, tell the folks, do you have to go to a lot of classes and seminars to find out these new developments?
Yes, of course, all trainers complete a 4-year program, and about 78% of them all have master's degrees. But that is just the beginning, because you're always learning and continuing in workshops and clinics and continuing education programs. And we have a lot of air traffic over the training campus. But we all have to continue to learn. And I think that's no different than any other profession. In order to stay at the top of your field, and in order for me to provide the Giants with the best, then ongoing education is always something that has to be a part of my life.
So Ronnie's learned a lot since we came out and talked to him 3 years ago, right?
I've learned considerably, a lot, more than that time, yes.
And what did you do last winter? You said you worked with the Giants quite a lot?
Well, during the winter, I spend most of my time rehabilitating those players that were injured during the season and beginning the off-season conditioning program.
Oh, that's
the
good.
best way to prevent injuries is to be in good condition, and you have to do it year-round.
You have to do it year-round?
You have to do it year-round, that's correct.
Well, it's a good thing you love it, isn't it?
Yes, I do love it, and I think the reason I love it is because the athletes are the world's best in their sport.
I see.
At the Giants, we have the cream of the crop, and at all the other 26 clubs, they have the cream of the crop. But these are the kids who started out in Little League and went on to college, high school, and the college, and they made it to pros. And only a small percentage, probably about 3%, make it to this level.
Yeah, that makes it exciting.
But the ones that do make it very exciting.
Folks, did you hear about the football fan watching Monday Night Football? And he fell asleep, and in the morning his wife shook him on the shoulder and says, "Wake up, it's 20-7. He says, "Who's favorite?" Ronnie, just to review, I think you went North Carolina?
I went to East Carolina University. I went to North Carolina University for an MPH. I went to...
MPH?
Yeah, Went to Michigan Master in Public Health.
Oh.
Went to Michigan State, where I got a Master's of Science, and then I came to the Giants.
You came to the Giants,
Yeah, at
right?
27, the youngest trainer ever in the National Football League. And I'm 42 now, so I've been here a while.
You aren't 42. You're only 28, you look to me.
Thank you.
Ronnie, now talk to the folks, if you would, about AstroTurf.
Well, AstroTurf makes a nice surface, but it is laid down on top of concrete, and the players really don't like AstroTurf. They don't like it because it makes their legs ache, and because it's a very hard surface, a lot of bruises, abrasions, turf burns, etc. In terms of major ligament injuries, there haven't been any greater number on AstroTurf than grass, but everybody likes grass. And I think sooner or later, all of the teams in the National Football League may wind up playing on grass, and I think the players would like it a lot better.
Yeah, what interested me when they put the grass into your stadium for soccer, why didn't they keep it?
Well, the reason that we don't have grass, they didn't keep that grass because it was Bermuda grass, grown in my home state of North Carolina, and it doesn't grow well in the cold weather. But they have some 15 or 20 concerts between now and when we start the season, football season. And then throughout the season, when we're not playing there, the Jets are playing there. And if the Jets and the Giants are not playing there, then we have other concerts, because stadiums generate a lot of revenue for the state and keep it operating.
Yeah.
But grass probably could grow. We just have to find the right type.
Yeah,
But that
too
Bermuda
bad.
for soccer wouldn't grow.
That's too bad when they put down all that grass and take it up to the...
Yes, cost millions of dollars.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Right. It's not dirt cheap, right?
No, it's not dirt cheap.
Ronnie, is there anything else you want to tell the folks?
Well, I own a company, Professional Sports Care,
Right.
and we have 24 facilities
Wow.
throughout the tri-state area. We're the largest physical therapy network in the tri-state area. We're in Westchester,
In
Harrison,
Harrison?
on the Mamaroneck Avenue, and
I remember when you opened it.
we're in Greenwich, in Old Greenwich, and of course in Connecticut, etc., and in New Jersey. And what we do is bring the same kind of physical therapy that we use here at the pros to the fireman, the policeman, the person who's injured, who likes to do recreational sports.
Oh, I see. Do you do like any high school athletes? Or?
We take care of high school athletes, amateur tennis players,
Yeah.
and we, of course, at our Westchester facility, we take care of the Mets. They come there for their rehabilitation. So,
They do?
Yes, they do. So we've had a number of, Bobby Bonilla, who lives in Greenwich, comes over there to rehab, and we've had a number of, of stellar athletes.
We're talking to Ronnie Barnes, who is the head trainer for the New York Giants, and this is Jason is sitting down on the job post. And I know about this airport because I got sort of flimsy directions. I ended up at the airport. That's why I was here a half an hour late, but then you were 2 hours late. Ronnie, did you hear about the donut defense in football?
No, I did not.
That's
Tell
the
me
one.
about it.
That's the one with a hole in the middle. Now tell us about the Giants this year, Ronnie.
Well, the Giants, we're all excited. We have two young quarterbacks competing for a starting job, Dave Brown and Kent Graham. So we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. So that's really exciting. It always is. They're both very talented, very skilled and accurate passers. So we're looking forward to that. We had a good year last year. We were in the playoffs, as you know. And Dan Reeves.
You did great last year.
Dan Reeves is a super coach.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to some exciting things. And we play tomorrow night against Miami.
To Miami, and then next week is Cleveland.
That's correct.
And then you go to Germany.
That's correct. We go to Berlin.
What is that?
And this is the first time that we've played in Berlin. But the National Football League plays in foreign countries each year. Sometimes in Sweden, Berlin, Mexico, I think this year, London. And it's an opportunity to expose American football to the foreign market. And sometime we might put a team there. Who knows?
That's pretty exciting for you, isn't it, Ronnie?
It's very exciting. I've spent time in Berlin in the past, so I'm looking forward to going back again.
So you came a long way from East Carolina.
That's correct.
Right? I hope he's going to stop.
There he's going to.
Who is he?
That's John Elliott. We'll get him to
John
say something.
Elliott, you come here. I talked to John Elliott on the phone. You
Did you?
remember that, folks? I told you about it.
Yeah.
Ronnie, let's see, what else was I going to ask you? Is there anything else that you want to tell us about the Giants this season?
Well, we're all healthy, and
Yeah.
we're looking forward to a good season.
it looks pretty good.
Yep.
Okay, that's it. John has nothing to say. John, tell us what you think of AstroTurf.
Being a player for a few years now in the NFL and playing on it all through my collegiate career, I'd have to say I'm an adversary, or I'm against AstroTurf.
Yeah.
Whether or not there's any scientific or data that supports this, I just feel that natural grass is softer on your body, you don't ache as much, and you don't get things like turf toes and burns and this and that. And I just love to feel the grass.
Tom, I was so upset about your finger. Is it hurt? Still hurt?
It's okay. It's a little banged up.
Is it both of them or just the one?
Just the one.
Yeah. Is it coming along, John?
Yes.
It's very good.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear about the housewife who was out in the kitchen and her husband was glued to the TV set? And the little boy said, "Mommy, what does NFL mean?" And she said, "National Foolishness Live."
Very good.
Ron, is there anything you want to ask John Elliott for the benefit of the audience?
Well, I don't have anything to ask him, but he did break his finger.
Yeah.
And we've made a splint for him to wear in the game. He will not play in the Miami game, but he will play in about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. And he'll be playing in a splint to protect the hand. And those are the kinds of things that we do in sports medicine. We make splints and braces so that players can play.
Yeah, right. What were you just doing, John?
There was an ant crawling on your back.
On your back. I kind of like it.
John, will that be hard for you to play with that splint on?
It's a little awkward, but they do a great job in taking the pressure in the collision. When you collision, the force it would be on the finger. They kind of disperse that, and it goes up onto your arm and it's absorbed by the brace. It's a little awkward for a player, especially me. I like to hold a lot.
And linemen aren't supposed to hold Glendora.
You can't really hold with one of those things on, but
Oh, comma Glendora.
so it's just something. It's a little bit of a handicap, but
You think you can get used to it?
I don't think I'll ever get used to anything being on. I like the less, the better, with me.
Anything you want to tell the folks before we say bye-bye?
Have a nice day.
John, what do you think the biggest invention in sports medicine has been since you've been playing?
Well, I think rather than any specific invention, I just think the care that we get now with our staff and everything is increased dramatically. It's just you guys are on top of everything, and it's you get guys on the field a lot quicker than the old days, and you have a lot better techniques to take care of injuries and to get a guy away from having pain and this and that.
And without using the needle like they used to use in the old days. Some of the horror stories, that we've really enhanced that because we know more about the body, we know more about conditioning and training and injury.
Yeah.
And
it's like
I
going
think
to
that's
have
really
your
positive.
tooth filled. If you can get it filled without Novocaine, so much the better, right?
Absolutely.
Without the needles. John, what did you major in college?
Marketing and sports management and communications.
You did?
Yeah. It was kind of a,
Would you like to go into that?
actually, I'd like to play a few more years.
No, I'm
That's-
talking. I'm just talking after that. You think you'd like to go into that?
Well, I'm keeping my options open. And,
Yeah.
Glendora, over 50% of our players finished college and got their degrees.
Yes.
And we have a college program where players who didn't finish can finish them while
that's
they're at the
great.
Giants through FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson University.
Is that so? And do you help to finance that?
We don't help finance it because they all get $1 million, Glendora, so they can probably pay for it. But we do set the program up,
He gets $1
and they
million.
go. And I think that's real positive. But only a small few players make it to the NFL. So when young people ask me about making it to pro football,
Yes.
I always tell them, get your education.
Yeah.
Because you're not guaranteed to
Yeah, you
play
did that.
pro football, pro baseball,
Yeah.
or any other pro sport. Education is very important.
I think it's less than 1% that actually make it to the NFL level.
Really?
Yeah,
You said
all-
three.
Yeah, I said 3, so it's really quite, but it's
John,
probably
where
less
was
than
your graduate school?
Michigan.
Michigan State?
University of Michigan.
University
No,
of
state.
I'm the Michigan
State.
Stater.
That's the enemy.
That's
All
green and that's yellow.
All right, so anything else, because I'm going to tell you our joke, and then we're going to thank Ronnie Barnes and John Elliott out here at Fairleigh Dickinson University. Anything else? Okay.
That's really it. I just appreciate you having us on your show. We always enjoy it. And I always enjoy your calls and the joke of the day. And I'm going to have to get a satellite dish so I can get that cable station in New Jersey.
I wonder if you can.
We can't get it. I tried all the channels.
What's your cable company?
Suburban Cable.
Is that Salmon's?
I don't know. But we can't get you because I've already tried all the channels.
Yeah, they're right. I'm on 9 different You can't get TKR either?
No, we can't. Not in my house.
Well, Lawrence Tish can get it.
Yes.
and Preston Tish can get it. Okay, your joke of the day. Bob was talking to God. And Bob says, God, how long is 1,000,000 years to you? And God says, oh, about 30 seconds. That's how come I made the world in 6 days. And Bob says, God, how much is $1,000,000 to you? And God says, oh, about $10. And Bob says, God, can you loan me $10? And God said, sure, just a second.
That's not bad.
Very
Jason
good.
Knight, thank you very much for being on the camera. This is A Chat with Glendora, and it's July the 29th, 1994, Friday. And take care of yourself and be kind to everybody. Bye-bye. Plains. You have to go 24 east, 287 north, 80 east, and I-95 north, George Washington Bridge, the Deegan, and the Bronx River. I want to show you the size of the shoe. Let me put my foot next to it. These are the giants undergoing physical therapy. This is Chat with Glendora, July 29, 94, Friday, 2:45 p.m. They're waiting for the police now.
I think you would like to ask for unanimous consent to offer it.
No, it's second reading.
It's the second reading.
Oh, it is? I
Yes.
apologize. The ordinance has been offered by Mrs. Oliver. Mrs. Malmet, have you?
I will be willing to second it.
Mrs. Malmet seconds the ordinance. The ordinance is now before us for further consideration. This was started last month, and we'd like to take testimony now, pro and con. Please come forward and identify yourself, Joe.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Common Council. My name. These things kind of sneak up on us, and we kind of accept them after a while. And I'm sure this is the partial list, but I'm going to try and tickle your memory if you indulge me. Usually I start my day off.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Please identify yourself.
My name is Glendora. I live at... I'm very happy that you people have brought up this possibility of getting rid of these leaf blowers. I abhor, hate, despise, loathe, and detest them. I live next door to the lot that you people saved of 14 lots that goes along the Mamaroneck and down Livingston and up Livingston and down Greenridge and down Rutledge. And this is a great natural resource in the middle of White Plains. Here's how it goes. On Monday afternoon, I hear all of the mowers and the leaf blowers across the street at Greenridge and Rutledge, and then on Tuesday afternoon, our own people come at 21 Greenridge Avenue, and then Tuesday afternoon, the people come and do the cutting of this great big lot I told you about. And you can't hear anybody on the phone, you can't hear me on the phone, and they say, does that come from Westchester County? They can't hear a thing because of these noisy machines. Dr. Everett Parker, I heard about this, by the way, in church. Dr. Parker spoke from the pulpit and said that there was going to be this hearing tonight. Dr. Everett Parker was here with his wife, Geneva. He came here at 10 minutes to 8. He left at around 10:20. He just couldn't wait any longer to speak. But I said to Dr. Parker, he left at 10:15. I said to Dr. Parker, what did you want to say? And he said that he was concerned about people's hearing loss, not only the people who operated the machines. I should think they'd be deaf within 2 or 3 years. He's concerned for the residents who have to hear it. He says that it's 6,000 to 8,000 frequencies. He says that the noise can be deadened technically by the manufacturers, and he says, why should we suffer because the manufacturers want to make a few more dollars? He says there's an endless amount of rakes available, and it's not that big of a job. And as far as the mowers go, they can have mufflers, and there can be electric motors. And he says there's can be hand power mowers. Okay. I thank you for this. I hope that you do it. We certainly need it. I don't know how it ever was allowed to go this long.
Thank you, Ms. Glendora. Yes, sir.
Make a few more dollars. He says there's an endless amount of rakes available, and it's not that big of a job. And as far as the mowers go, they can have mufflers, and there can be electric motors. And he says there's can be hand power mowers. Okay. I thank you for this. I hope that you do it. We certainly need it. I don't know how it ever was allowed to go this long.
Thank you, Ms. Glendora. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's John Papazian. I live on Maplemore Lane. And thank you for the opportunity to address this issue. My wife and I recently moved into the White Plains community, and despite all the concerns I've heard about the community tonight, we've been generally extremely happy here. This is really a little utopia for us. It puts us in close proximity to just about anything we might want to do. But we do have one problem, and that is the constant exposure to the noise from the blowers all day, every day, 7 days a week, 10 months out of the year. Current ordinance allows them to operate between 12 and 13 hours a day, 7 days a week on holidays. It's difficult enough putting up with this noise during the fall when the machines are used for what their intended use was. It is intolerable the balance of the time when they are being used, especially that it's obvious that they're not necessary at this time. Having observed this for the past year, it seems to me that the issue can be broken down to two aspects, and that's economic and environmental. Economically, having spoken to numerous gardeners, it's my understanding at this time of the year that the gardeners are using the blowers to achieve what homeowners have asked them to achieve, and the rather than allow the fear of change to limit us. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Franklin Buell. I would just briefly reiterate a couple of the points that have been made that have always been uppermost in my mind. One is the seeming pointlessness and foolishness of so much of the work that is done by the blowers. They blow something one direction, but who's to know but what the wind is going to blow it back in the next hour. There's nothing final about what they do. They don't get rid of anything. They just rearrange it. And the other point that has been mentioned, as I hear them, I often fear for the welfare of the people who are using them and having that noise so close to their ear. And those would be my reasons for commending you for legislation that would get rid of them at least partially. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Politzer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Someone said it wasn't worth being here. Leno was on Letterman. This is far better. Very succinctly, John made very strong comments about
You saw was Franklin and Glendora speaking at the White Plains Common Council about the leaf blowers, and they did pass it. Starting August the 15th in the city of White Plains, there will be no leaf blowers and no noisy mowing machines. That was on the night of August the 1st, 1994, Monday. We give Cy Schulman credit because he really seems to listen to people, and he really seems to let the whole thing be exposed. So you give him credit for that. We give the council credit for bringing this up. Rye has rules against it, Scarsdale has, and so does Mamaroneck, I believe. Or is it Larchmont? The onus, though, of standing up for what's right is tremendous. We got there at 9 o'clock, or 8:30, yeah, 9 o'clock, and we sat until 10 minutes to midnight. I look bad on television anyway. I certainly looked worse then because I go to bed at 9 o'clock. And it was 10 minutes to midnight that we made those speeches. And you know what's nice, though, about the White Plains Public Access Commission is that we could come home and we could turn on channel 14, 15, and we could watch what we left. We wanted to know, we were interested in the topic after that too, and we wanted to know how it came out. And so you could go home and you could watch that on television, lie in bed and watch it on TV. I think that's tremendous. So give a round of applause for the White Plains Public Access Commission. Joe Valentino was there. It was great to have an opportunity to meet him. Okay. So the White Plains Common Council did the right thing. Didn't tell them about was that that very same day, Monday, in the afternoon, the people who take care of this great big field next door that I've told you about so many times were in there with those whippers, you know, that thing that goes around and around with the wires. And it's terrible to see the greenery all brutalized. It's a natural resource. It's a sanctuary for birds. It's a sanctuary for butterflies. It's a beautiful thing. It's a great thing to have right in the middle of White Plains. And I was coming down the sidewalk, and on the sidewalk is a snake, a little snake, this big around, cut in two. Oh, there's no need of that. And what about a person walking down the sidewalk, say at dusk, and this could have been near dusk, and stepping on that? So that's pretty bad. So of course I took the snake, half of the snake, and put it back into the field. I want to tell you about Cablevision. I requested their certificate of incorporation. It came from Westbury, Long Island. This is the cover letter. It was sent by David Deitch, and you knew of the conversations with him. I told you about those. But they complied with the law, and they sent this because I am a shareholder. And they also sent the minutes of the annual meeting, June 14th, and I had to ask 10 times for those. They tried to get out of that. And a glaring omission is that there is no mention as to what time the meeting was adjourned on June the 14th, 1994, Tuesday. When I walked in at 10:26 a.m. on or about, I was told that the meeting was adjourned. Well, I just don't know if I was being told the truth. How can a corporation of the size of Cablevision have an annual meeting that lasts 28 minutes or 26 minutes, whatever time I got there? And also I saw a man going up the stairs who I think was a director. And I saw no outflow of people as there would have been if the meeting had been over. So I think I was lied to. It's going to be pretty rough on Cablevision if that's so. Here are the certificates, the certificate of incorporation. They're a Delaware corporation. And my question is, are they operating in compliance with the business corporation law of the state of New York? This is the state of Delaware. That's the seal of the state of Delaware. And these are all the revisions of the certificate of incorporation. There's a lot to be done there, and I want to go over with you what's in my mind. I do not think it's in the best interest of the shareholders, of which I am one, that this present management goes out and breaks a state law, is convicted of breaking a state law, also breaks a federal law, and then pays a Park Avenue lawyer, Robert Kalaji, to lie for them, to cover up. I do not think that that's in the best interest of the shareholders. Management should know, first of all, what the law is. That's what the shareholders' money is paying them for. Management should know that they shouldn't break a law. And management should know that when they have broken a law, you don't lie about it and cover up. You take the consequences. So that is going over. That will probably be the next cause of action against Cablevision. Also, not operating the business in the best interest of the shareholders may be the next cause of action against Gannett. Another Dippy letter from the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. I think that's an agency that Mr. Pataki could get rid of. Because have you ever heard them say anything bad about a judge? It's an old boys club. This is Albert B. Lawrence again and Lee Kicklear. And nothing, of course, will happen about it. And they don't tell you what judge you were complaining about. And I complain about so many judges, I really have to know. But I think this is the last one, the most recent one that was sent out. And this is a complaint against Judge Silverman, I believe. We have what's going on here. Judge Silverman's decision came in. He said my complaint was all over the place. This is his decision. You got to give him credit. He worked a long time on it. And then you never know whether it's the judge or the law clerk. So we'll call it the judge and the law clerk, Andrew Belinsky. And here's the third page. Now this is too involved for me to read it to you. They keep leaving out apostrophe S's. I don't know why they do that. at Classical High School in Springfield, Mass., the paper would get an E automatically for something like that. And Evans Brewster ought to know that. He went to Classical High School in Springfield, Massachusetts, and also to the American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts. But that's his decision. I am not going to read it to you because it's too long, it's too involved, it's too intricate. But if you want a copy of it, just call me up, and I'll be happy to send it to you. Now also, Cablevision got this temporary, they got this stay for 30 days. So in other words, Cablevision has 30 days from the entry of this judgment before they have to put my program back on the cable TV. And of course, again, not in the interest of the shareholders, they will prolong this and they will continue covering up and lying and continue the bad record because Kalaji will go and appeal it. And if he gets his way, he'll have 90 days to write the brief. Isn't it terrific? You know what my word is for the New York courts? Purgatory. And then then there will be a respondent's brief. In this case, I would be the respondent for the first time. And then there would be his reply brief. So you add that all up, and that's about 2 years. Maybe 2, maybe 2.5, okay? Before Cablevision would have to put the program back on the air, if he gets by with it. So what is in process here is, I don't know when his notice of appeal is going, but I'm making a notice of appeal, so his will have to be a cross appeal. I've got to get this in. And I'm going to, it's just in longhand here, it's got to be typed. So what I've said in it is that I'm going to appeal this decision. Please take notice that the above-named plaintiff hereby appeals to the Appellate Division of the Supreme Court from the decision and order of the Supreme Court of the County of Westchester, Justice Donald N. Silverman, 111 Grove Street, White Plains, New York, in this action entered in the office of the clerk of said court on the 28th day of July, 1994. And then I'm going to say that I'm not going to appeal the part of the decision that mandated my program be put back on cable TV in Long Island. I'm not going to appeal that. I'm not going to appeal the part of the decision where Judge Silverman denied that the state law is unconstitutional. I'm not going to appeal that part of the decision where Judge Silverman denied that the state law is preempted by federal law. But I am going to object to the fact that he didn't award me the $181 million damages, that he let them get by with the sanctions. I made a motion for sanctions, and that Judge Silverman denied that. And also on the default matter, that they had defaulted, and also on his collateral estoppel from Judge Bryant, which is ridiculous, claiming that I got a fair trial in federal court on this, the United States District Court. I did not. Also on that it's a class action, it's for every public access producer in the state of New York, and about my constitutional rights. And I did state a claim and for dismissing my 3rd, 5th, and 7th causes of action, my 4th cause of action, my 6th cause of action, my 8th cause of action, and that Judge Silverman would not demand that Cablevision make good all the programs that they missed, and also that Judge Silverman would not demand that the program go back to 10 p.m. Friday nights on Channel 25. Now the minutes are here. So Judge Silverman says, my complaint is all over the place. I say that his decision is all over the place, but he really did work hard on it. This is what happened July 14th when we found out what decision Judge Silverman had made at a conference in his courtroom. And I really ought to read it to you, and I just can't get time to type this last page of what happened there. But the minutes are here. These minutes are by Rochelle Leichter, court stenographer. They didn't cost $150. They cost $84. But can you imagine paying $84 for that? Don't you think that's an obvious ripoff? You remember I got ripped off for minutes from Danielle Carbone for $1,450. The judges never even read them. The judges in the appellate term never even read them. Okay, this is the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester, Glendora, and plaintiff against James A. Cofault et al. I don't like that at all. I want them to give the names of the defendants. Here they are. James A. Cofault, Charles F. Dolan, John Tata, William J. Bell, Mark A. Lusgarten, Francis F. Randolph Jr., Robert S. Lemley, Joseph Aznara, Thomas Gardner, James L. Dolan, and Cable Systems Corporation defendants. Oh, the index number is 003288 of 94. Westchester County Courthouse, 111 Grove Street, White Plains, New York, 10601, July 14, 1994. Before, Honorable Donald N. Silverman, Justice of the Supreme Court. Appearances, Glendora, Plaintiff Pro Se, Box 416, White Plains, Satterley, Stevens, Burke. Now that's bad. Oh yeah, okay, it's all right. Robert M. Kalaji, Esquire of Counsel, 230 Park Avenue. This is what the shareholders are paying for. New York, New York, 10169. Now these are like something like $5 a page. You notice that this part of the page isn't written on and it's double spaced. So you think that's a good deal? I think it's a consumer ripoff. As I've said to you many times, the courts are the biggest consumer ripoff we have in America. Now also about these minutes, I asked for a record from the beginning. Judge Silverman, for reasons of his own, pretty obvious to me, didn't want a record. Finally, when Kalaji asked for a stay, Judge Silverman has to have a record. And so Judge Silverman dictates to the court stenographer in front of us. We'll go on the record now on the application for a stay. Let me say for the record first that the court has indicated off the record and will state on the record now that it is rendering a decision which is not a written decision, which is not in its final stage yet, but we know what the decision is. The parties are here, and rather than waste more of their time having them come back, I can tell them right now what the decision is. The decision, as will be more fully stated in the writing to come, essentially denies the defendant's First Amendment claims, that's Cablevision's claims, denies their claim on the basis of federal preemption. Should say that it denied what they mean here is denied the first claim that the public access laws of the state of New York are unconstitutional. Denies their claim on the basis of federal preemption, that the public access laws are preempted by the state, by the feds. Denies virtually all of plaintiff's claims, constitutional and other, with the exception that the court finds that the statute does mandate that defendants air her program. He had to rule that. As I said, the reasons for this decision will be more fully stated in the written decision. Now, counsel for the defendants have asked for a stay on the basis that there are close questions of constitutional dimension and there are allegations that the program of the plaintiff contains defamatory material, the plaintiff's program, and therewith a fear, notwithstanding the safeguards that are built into the statute, that if they don't hold up, they'll be left holding the bag in lawsuits that may arise. And then he says to Kalaji, any other reasons? I thought there was some secrets. Well, these were all lies that Kalaji is telling about this. Yes, Your Honor, on the material that plaintiff has aired, she is represented, and she's doing that in the court today, that she is affiliated with NBC. Glendora, that is wrong. I object. Court, you get your turn to speak. Kalaji, she's wearing a badge that contains the call letters NBC. Glendora, it says see Glendora on NBC. The court, you will get your turn. Kalaji, to our knowledge, plaintiff has no affiliation with NBC. wrong about that. She's not an employee of that firm, nor is she in any way associated such that she could use their trademark. Okay, here's two lies here. I'm not an employee of the firm, and I'm proud to say that I'm not. I'm not an employee of anybody. I own my own firm. And this is not the trademark of NBC. Those are not trademark letters of NBC. But this is dumb Kalaji. This is not a trademark, Glendora says. And Silverman says to me, all right, Glendora, you'll have to be quiet. You tell me why I have to be quiet while he's standing up there telling lies. You tell me why I have to be quiet when I'm the plaintiff and I should speak first. He's the defendant. He should not speak first. I should speak first. And you tell me why I don't have a right to refute these lies. They're going on the record. Glendora, Your Honor, I'm the plaintiff. Silverman, I'm directing you to be quiet, and I'm telling you, you'll get an opportunity to speak. Glendora, I'm the plaintiff, Your Honor. Kalaji, our concern, and this is one of the reasons for our belief that the statute is unconstitutional, to the extent that it precludes any minimal First Amendment exercise of editorial discretion. This is Kalaji talking. Our concern is copyright infringement claims, libel claims, and we would ask the court for a limited stay with respect to Your Honor's order, such that we could go to the appellate division and test the constitutional issue. All they're asking for, of course, is to get out of it, to delay putting the program back on the cable TV. When we were last before Your Honor, you asked if our client was carrying Glendora on other of its channels, and the court was advised that it was. Glendora, that's wrong. It is wrong. Silverman asked Glendora, are you back on the air? Are you on the air now? And Glendora said no, not in Long Island. But Glendora is on 3 Cablevision systems in Westchester. Kalaji is saying that Silverman said that. That is not so. Glendora said that. And so I say that's wrong. And Silverman says to me, I've asked you to be quiet. You'll get a turn. Why should I be quiet when he's up there telling lies? Kalaji, this order relates to programming in Nassau and Suffolk County. It's darn little Suffolk County, very little Suffolk County, where plaintiff does not reside and has never resided, but that's not part of the state law. The state law says you don't have to reside there, to our knowledge. So I would ask that the court stay for a reasonable period of time. Glendora, irrelevant. Court, Judge Silverman, just wait a second. Now listen, Silverman says to me, I've given you one warning, and I'm going to give you a final warning. Glendora, this is not fair. You can't give me a final warning. Silverman, I told you you are going to get your turn to speak. Glendora, you're anti-plaintiff, and you're anti-pro se. We had a whole 5 minutes there about me being a pro se before he took a record. Silverman, I'm speaking now, and if you don't follow my directions, I'm warning you now, for the second and last time, I'm going to hold you in contempt. Glendora, then you'll have to hold me in contempt, because I am not going to put up with this. Silverman, I'll do this. Glendora, then you'll have to do it. This is grossly unfair. I'm the plaintiff, and I should speak first. Silverman, I'm holding you in contempt. Glendora, okay, I'm in contempt. Silverman, we can have you locked up. Glendora, that's all right. It will be a public record. Silverman, you're either going to be quiet or you're going to be taken into custody. That's your choice. Kalaji, what I ask for is a reasonable stay of the order, to give us a chance to go to the Appellate Division, 2nd Department, on the constitutional issue. Silverman's already ruled that the law is not unconstitutional. As to whether or not there is any First Amendment, any 14th Amendment, and any 15th Amendment right that our client has. Silverman, let me ask you something. The programming, which is the subject of this lawsuit, is programmed solely in Nassau County. Kalaji, Nassau and Suffolk County. Darn little in Suffolk County. Silverman, is there anything in the statute which limits the geographical area? Not to my knowledge, Kalaji says. He's certainly asking the wrong person. Kalaji knows nothing about cable TV. Why should he? I've been in cable television for 20 years. What happened is we have stations up here as well. Glendora, object. Kalaji, and we are carrying her. We did not preclude her and have not precluded her. And you asked that question. Okay, a couple of things are wrong here. Kalaji says we did not preclude her. We, since when is Kalaji Cablevision? Kalaji is Satterley Stevens, Burke & Burke, a lying law firm down on Park Avenue. Kalaji is not we, Cablevision. And you asked that question when we were last together and have not precluded her here. He did not ask that question when we were last together. We have just precluded her in Nassau and Suffolk County on the stations, and they aren't stations, they're channels. Stations belong to CBS, NBC, WABC TV, WNBC TV, not to cable companies. That's what I say. He knows nothing about cable. We have just precluded her in Nassau and Suffolk County on the stations we operate because the material that she is airing, as far as we are concerned, you know, has no public interest in those counties. Her in Nassau and Suffolk County on the stations, and they aren't stations, they're channels. Stations belong to CBS, NBC, WABC TV, WNBC TV, not to cable companies. That's what I say. He knows nothing about cable. We have just precluded her in Nassau and Suffolk County on the stations we operate because the material that she is airing, as far as we are concerned, you know, has no public interest in those counties. And there again, they are exercising editorial control. It's none of their business whether the program is about people in Nassau County or not. It is about Scott Lord and the rip-offs he has committed all over Nassau County. It's valuable public information. The people in Nassau County have to know that they don't have to be ripped off by Scott Lord. They also have to know about the negligence of the Department of Consumer Affairs, the Office of Consumer Affairs, run by Commissioner James E. Picken. They also have to know about the negligences that go on in the Westbury Bankruptcy Court. So this is vital public information. But Silverman doesn't give me a chance to say that. Silverman, all right. Glendora, okay. I think it's mighty suspicious that this program was censored in Long Island. And the very same programs are being carried on Cablevision, Yorktown, Yonkers, and Harris and Port Chester. He is wrong, that meaning Kalaji, to call these stations. They are not stations. The station is a broadcast term and belongs to WNBC, WABC TV, and whatever. It does not belong to a cable company. What he should say is, these are cable systems. Don't you think it's suspicious that this program on Long Island was singled out for censorship? And the very same programs are appearing in the other Cablevision system. Silverman, I'm not going to answer questions. I'm here to listen to your arguments. Glendora, I want to know, is this stay appealable before the appellate division now at this point? Silverman, any order of this court is appealable. Glendora, this stay is appealable? Silverman, I haven't issued a stay yet. I'm hearing your argument. He made an application for a stay. I'm hearing your argument as to why you are opposed to it, if you are. Glendora, now this trivia about NBC. I'm a customer of NBC and have been for many years, and I buy their airtime. And I place business on their network. I have bought 19 spots on the NBC television network. It says here that have been sponsored by Polaroid. No, not 19 of them. One was sponsored by Polaroid. I bought that time. I am in the spots. I appear in them. I tell jokes in them. I tell jokes in them in the end of these spots. At the end of these spots, I say, this 30 seconds of goodwill and good cheer is brought to you by the Polaroid Corporation. That's what this sign says. He has no right at all to even talk to you about that. It's irrelevant. It's outside of this lawsuit. I want to talk to you about, it says Glendora, see Glendora on NBC. Why don't you read that? And I went over to Kalaji then and stuck it under his bifocals. Silverman, talk to the court, not counsel, please. Glendora, now this is not a trademark. This is all trivia, what they call scant judicial resources. It's a stupid thing that he brought up, and has been for a long time, like all of his other points, and I want to ask you this. These people have broken a state law. I have been damaged and I have been injured, and I asked for $181 million. I should have told Silverman that I had bought approximately, I think it's $37,000 airtime on CBS, on NBC, and I brought about, this is a network now, broadcast network, NBC television network, and I bought about $25,000 worth of airtime on CBS television network, coast to coast. A total of something like 180 TV stations across the country. Those are TV stations. Silverman says, well, the difficulty is this. You really don't state a cause of action here, which would entitle you to monetary relief. Glendora, I stated 9 causes of action to you. Silverman, you stated causes of action which are not causes of action. Glendora, negligence is not a New York state tort? Silverman, it is, but not in this case. There is no negligence in this case. These pages are affectionate. They're stuck on each other. Well, Glendora says, okay, I'm going to appeal this. How soon are we going to get this decision? Silverman, very shortly, within a week, probably. Glendora, and he was right. We got it within a week. Did we? That was the 14th. No, we really didn't. No, we got it within 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks. He didn't sign it until the 28th. Silverman, what discovery are you talking about? Glendora, I want to know who made this decision, why they made it, who made it. I want to know why James A. Colfault was fired. He's the lead defendant. Silverman, I previously denied your discovery. Was it part of any motion presently pending? Glendora, I made a motion to you to compel discovery. Silverman, is it pending now? Glendora, everything is pending. Kalaji, Your Honor, what happened here? There was a motion dismissing for summary judgment that was filed, and I know that there have been other motions. Why isn't Kalaji getting contempt of court? But my understanding was the court, there's no dispute as to the facts. There's no basis for any discovery. I want to read that to you again. There's no dispute as to the facts. Cablevision broke the law. They don't dispute it. There's no basis to join individual defendants. See, Cablevision is covering up. Cablevision doesn't want to talk. Cablevision doesn't want to tell the truth. They don't want to be deposed. They won't even answer a bill of particulars. They won't even answer a demand as to whom they're going to produce as witnesses. See, they're just covering up, just the way they covered up with the service. They're fugitives of discovery, they're fugitives of service. There's no basis to join individual defendants. She has joined all the officers, directors, and various employees in their financial capacity. Glendora, I choose to do that, and he can't tell me I can't do it. Silverman, what else? Glendora, you say that my freedom of speech has not been abridged? Silverman, that's correct. They take my program off the TV, and they're not abridging my freedom of speech. On what basis do you say that? Glendora says to Judge Silverman. Silverman, it's in the decision. Glendora, and you say that my freedom of press has not been abridged? I was acting as an investigative reporter. Now Cablevision said they exercised censorship and editorial control on the basis I was talking about personal disputes. And Glendora says to Judge Silverman, I'll have you know that court TV happens to be all about personal disputes. The coverage of O.J. Simpson every day, all day long, is about personal disputes. So I think that argument fails. Silverman, okay. What else do you think? So, Glendora, I am getting a record of this. There is a record being made. Silverman, you can pay for a record of it. Glendora, I know that. That's one of the worst parts of the court system. Now, is it irrelevant, this trivial thing that he brought out, that I do not reside in Long Island? That is not part of the pay rule. No, I don't know what that means. That is not part of the rules. Peg! Oh, I see. Yeah, that's too bad. Now, Rochelle couldn't hear. What I said is that is not part of the PEG rules of New York. And she put it down as the pay rules of New York State. That is not part of it, whether I reside there or not. They still have to put on the program. I'm protected by the Constitution of the United States to defend myself. I don't know why you're so prejudiced, I'm saying to Judge Silverman, to a pro se. Silverman, all right. I've just indicated we bent over backwards to examine arguments that you didn't even think to make. Well, that's what's in that decision I told you about, and you can get a copy of it if you want. I guess you could say they bent over backwards to do that, but they also bent over backwards to be pro-Cablevision. Glendora. And then you ignore the argument that I did make. I didn't ignore them. I didn't think much of them. Glendora, and I think his papers are worse than mine. And as far as my being in front of the disciplinary committee, that's irrelevant. Earlier, Silverman did not have to say this. Earlier, when he, in fact, the first thing he said, the problem that we have here is that the plaintiff is a pro se, and that her complaint was all over the place, and if this paper had been written by a lawyer, that lawyer would have been before the disciplinary committee. Well, first of all, he never should have said that. And two, it is irrelevant. And three, it's downright insulting. So I go on to say, now all right, I want to go on to something else here. Are you going to rule on my motion for sanctions for improper influence showing you Judge Broderick's decision? Silverman, we're talking now about an application for a stay. Any other argument? Glendora, there are other things I'd like to talk about that I've been waiting a long time for. Silverman, do you have anything to say about the application for a stay? Yes, I oppose it. I think it's unfair, and I think it's been stayed long enough. So you have asked them to put my program back on Channel 25? Silverman, I don't know what channel it is, and this is wrong. But the result of the decision is that they're going to have to restore the program. Glendora, now did you also include in your decision, and I request that you do so, that they make good programs they have missed in prime time? Silverman, I'm not going to direct when they put on programming. Glendora, it's not as simple as that. Silverman, the court does not decide when programming goes on. He's wrong about that. Glendora, no, I don't think. Now this is a part of it, prime time. My program was on Channel 25, 10 o'clock p.m. prime time, and I asked that they make good the programs that they missed. Silverman, I'm not going to make this decision as to the timing of the programs. So that's the thing that I'm going to appeal, one of them. Glendora, what are you going to do about the $181 million? Silverman, I think you've lost it. Let me go over that again. Glendora to Judge Silverman, what are you going to do about the $181 million? Silverman, I think you've lost it. You'll have to learn to live without it. Glendora, excuse me? How soon will I have the decision? Silverman, about a week or so. Glendora, because I'm going to appeal it immediately. Silverman, I'm sure. Glendora, are you going to compel discovery? Silverman, well, I think the case is over. I don't know what's left for you to discover. Glendora, that's it. See how the case got over before I got a chance, she says case, before I got a chance for discovery? Silverman, well, you won. See, you didn't win money, but you won the right to have the programming go back on. Glendora, now that's it? Silverman, you got what you wanted except for the money. Glendora, well, I didn't get my programs made good, so this is it? This is what it has come to? Silverman, unfortunately, cases do have to come to an end. As much as we love carrying them. Glendora, okay. Well, I think it's unjust. It is a bad decision. Silverman, I could rule for the other side. Would you think it's better? That's flip, that's wise, that's uncalled for. If I had to get that telephone call, it was Lieutenant Quinn. Last night, the Lincoln, which has just been painted, the passenger side, by John Iodice, and also the driver's side. Somebody keyed it, took a key, and went all the way from the tail light all the way up to the parking light in the front, along the passenger side. That would be the side where the people walk by, and it's 20 feet from our bedroom window. The prime suspect, I'll tell you all about this later, the prime suspect is Roberta Walsh. Nella Alpucci would be number 2. Theo Alpucci would be number 3. James Walsh would be number 4. And Daniel Walsh would be number 5. And this was Lieutenant Quinn, who just called. He couldn't come and see the car because Franklin had to take it at 8:30. And so we made an appointment that Franklin will be back with the car at 1:30. And Lieutenant Quinn says, I'm concerned about this criminal mischief. This is the same charge against Jim Rochelle. And I'm concerned about it, and I want Officer Fisher to come up personally to see it. So that's good. I'm glad that they're concerned about it. I certainly felt a lot better after talking to Lieutenant Quinn. I called first, and Officer Danziger wanted to send somebody out right away around 8:30 a.m. when we discovered it. It happened last night. And the reason it happened is that Roberta Walsh got violent, and James Walsh told a lie. And the police were here. That would be Sergeant Hanlon and Officer Keith Martin. And they were here. I have to tell you all about that. We had to serve them with the order to show cause from Judge Wood. All right, let's go back here. Silverman says, I could rule for the other side. Would you think it's better? That's justice. A law is a law. A law is broken, and he's telling me he could rule for the other side. That's the way things go in the Westchester County Supreme Court. A law is a law. Right is right and wrong is wrong. They broke the law. So when he says, I could rule for the other side, would you think it's better? Glendora, this is just the way he... And then Kalaji starts to giggle. Kalaji, in his immature way, starts to giggle the same way. And Glendora says, this is just the way he giggled at the appellate division. Glendora says, then this is over. You have denied my $181 million, and you have denied they're making good the programs that they missed, and you have ruled, and Silverman says, I am not ruling on programs that are missed. Your lawsuit seeks, as best I can tell looking at the complaint, it's hard to understand what it is you're seeking beyond money, and it's all listed there. It's all listed. You read it. I read it to you. It's all listed. It's hard to understand what it is you're seeking beyond money and having the programs restored. You can have it restored. You haven't stated a cause of action which would entitle you to any monetary relief, as far as I can see. Glendora, how about damages for emotional distress, negligent infliction of mental disturbance in the absence of physical impact? The court, you haven't stated any facts which would support these causes of action. Glendora, this is a class action for all public access producers in the state of New York. Silverman, you haven't stated a class action here. Glendora, oh, I did state it. Silverman, I mean in a legal sense. You haven't stated it in a way that's supportable in a class action in any of the actions that you have listed there. Glendora, how about you already said there wasn't any negligence? It's not a negligence action, Silverman says. Glendora, excuse me? Silverman, it's not a negligence action any more than it's a homicide action. Glendora, it's a tort action. Silverman, no, it's not a tort action. It's not a tort action. Glendora, and you're not going to punish them for setting back public access? The court, I think they have been punished enough. Glendora, tell me what's so funny about that? Kalaji giggles again. Glendora says to Kalaji, tell me what's so funny about that? He is so silly. His papers are silly. Silverman, what else? Address your remarks to the court, not counsel. Glendora, then have the counsel stop his giggling for your benefit. Silverman, anything else? Glendora, here he is, a grown man, Park Avenue lawyer, and he sits there giggling. Glendora, that they damaged my mission, which was to inform the public and stimulate public debate, and that's what public access is all about. Silverman, well, I think perhaps this issue of public access should be revisited by the legislature. That's prejudice. He's against public access. Wait a second. I don't know what that refers to. Wait a second. Silverman says, I think you'd be an excellent witness to testify before the committees about public access and make the point that you want to make before the legislative committee. And I'm sure council won't object. Isn't that fresh? Now they're playing to each other. Kalaji and Silverman are playing to each other. Little jokes back and forth. Glendora. But Your Honor, you're not here to rule on what should be done in the future. You're here to rule on the law as it is. Silverman, that's right. That's why you won. Glendora, what did you say about emotional distress? Silverman, you didn't state a cause of action to support that claim. Glendora, well, I think you're wrong about the causes of action. I think there are 9 causes of action. Silverman, anything else? Glendora, okay. Are you not going to rule on the motion to sanction him, that motion that I made? Silverman, motion for sanctions is denied. Glendora, now here's my discovery that I had all written and they ignored it twice, and you're going to allow them to get away with that. Silverman, no, I'm not going to allow them to get away with it. I decided you win. There's no need for discovery. Glendora, now, they never responded to the motion for sanctions. Don't I win by default? Silverman, no. Glendora, okay. You said the decision will be in the mail in a week or so. Silverman, yes. Glendora, and this case is over? Silverman, yes. What's going to happen with his stay? You have ruled that my program should go back on cable TV. Silverman, I haven't ruled on the application for a stay yet. Glendora, so my program doesn't go back on the cable TV until you decide on his application to stay. Silverman, if I grant the stay, that's correct. Glendora, how long is the stay for? Silverman, the application for 30 days following the filing of a decision. I'll give you the opportunity to bring a notice for appeal application for a stay before the appellate division. Glendora, yes, Your Honor. Silverman, that's the application. Glendora, how many days? Silverman, 30 days once the decision is filed. Glendora, 30 days plus what? Silverman, that's it. They'll have to make their application for a continued stay to the appellate division. Glendora, why does his go to the appellate division? Silverman, they want to appeal. Glendora, they're appealing your decision? Silverman, that's correct. Glendora, that takes a year and a half. It takes a year to get it into the appellate division, and the appellate division is a year behind. Well, they're not. I didn't say that. They're a year and a half behind. Silverman, the stay will continue for 30 days. The appellate division will decide whether it would continue or not continue. Glendora, that takes a year and a half. Silverman, no, it won't take that long. Glendora, okay. It's like a motion, okay. Consumato. And Silverman says, what's that? When I said consumato est, that's slipped the court stenographer. That's why we should have recorders in the court. Audio recorders and video recorders. Let me go over that again. Glendora, okay, it's like a motion, okay. Consumato est. And Silverman said, what's that? And I said, I'm pro se, translated from Latin. It's consummated. I'm going to give you a copy of something I'm going to give you this copy of. This is a copy of the report on you by the Fund for Modern Courts 3 years ago. Silverman, you were handing something up. Did you want to hand it up? Document handed to the court. Silverman, I'm familiar with this. Glendora, you don't want a copy? Silverman, I have a copy. Glendora, thank you for my day in court. Silverman, before you had a case in front of me, Silverman says, before you had a case in front of me, I was a good judge. Glendora, well, let me say this to you. That's certainly a good way to monitor courts. To become a litigant. But also, let me question this. When did I say you were a good judge? Well, I don't know. The committee that you worked for thought I was. They were very complimentary in their report anyway. Glendora, yes, I was the monitor that monitored you the most. Silverman, that's what I meant. Glendora, so you just said to me before I had a case before you, I thought you were a good judge. All right. Who said you aren't a good judge? Silverman, you have plenty of complaints, and I see plenty of materials indicating how bad you thought I have been. Glendora, well, you could still be a good judge. Silverman, that's true. I'm going to vacate counsel's application. so you're not held in contempt anymore. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't think that's what he said. I'm going to vacate counsel's application. I think he said, I'm going to grant counsel's application. I really think this is wrong. That's the way I heard it. He says, I'm going to grant counsel's application for a stay. And in fact, I know that's right, because here it is, right here. On July 14, 1994, the parties in this action appeared for a trial readiness conference. This court held that executive law, Section 829.3, confers a statutory right upon the plaintiff to have her program aired on the defendant's public access channel. You shouldn't say aired. Aired is a broadcast term. Cable TV companies do not air programs. They cable them, cablecast them on the defendant's public access channel. In light of this ruling, the defendants moved this court to stay enforcement of the judgment pending appeal as to the statute's infringement upon the defendant's constitutional right to free speech. Pursuant to CPLR 5519C, defendants are granted temporary stay from enforcement of any part of the judgment issued in this matter the same day. The stay shall apply for a period of 30 days after service of said judgment. And the judgment was served the 28th of July. So it's to the 28th of August. So I'm going to get my appeal in first. So I'm going to change this. It's not vacate, it's grant. You're not supposed to write on these minutes. So you're not held in contempt anymore. Silverman says to me, so you're not held in contempt anymore. Glendora, I'm not going to jail? Silverman, you're not going to jail. You can proceed directly to go. Glendora, I thought it would be a great place to do my program from. Silverman, we'll put it in the decision. The application granting the temporary stay 30 days following the receipt of the decision. Kalaji, the stay is granted. Glendora, the stay is granted. Silverman, temporary stay, only 30 days. Give him an opportunity to go to the appellate division. Glendora, I was injured over 5 months ago. Silverman, well, you won. You didn't win money, but you won something more important than money. Glendora, okay, Judge Silverman, there's nothing more important than money. But I don't really mean it that way. So I, Rochelle, like to do hereby certify that the within proceedings are a true and accurate transcript of the original stenographic record. Well, they're pretty accurate, and they're pretty true. And I like Rochelle. And she has my $84. Do you think it was worth it? Pay $84 for this? No, no way. The state should provide you these things. The state should provide you a record. Courts need reform so badly. So those were the minutes, and that's what happened, some of it, in Judge Silverman's courtroom on July the 14th, 1994, when he made the decision that Cablevision had to put my program back on cable TV in Long Island. Tell you, I guess I had to go take Bo for a walk. I didn't tell you, I guess, that somebody at church knows Donald Silverman's wife and his little girl. Yeah, I think I did tell you that. And in the neighborhood where they live, here in White Plains. Well, so the question is this worth $84? You see, judges do not want a record of the things that they do. That's why we have court monitors, except that we don't have a good court monitoring organization. We have instead modern courts. Elizabeth Hubbard, Michelle Mayapath, and Alan Beck. And judges don't want recorders or videotapes because they don't want you, the public, to know what they do. And that's why we have to, if I'd had an audio tape recorder, I could have recorded all that, and then I could have had it transcribed, and it might have cost me, what, $5 or $6. But instead, you get ripped off by the courts, the worst consumer fraud in America today. I looked over this written report that I had before the minutes, and I really think that you know everything, because I also talked to you about it about last month sometime when it happened. I talked to you on it right after it happened, on the July 21st report. So here are some other reactions. And so I don't really think I have to read that to you, 'cause I think the minutes covered it. You have to give Judge Silverman credit. He did rule in favor of the state law, whereas Judge Broderick, who had a similar federal law sitting in front of him saying that no cable operator shall exercise editorial control over public use of channel, Judge Broderick ruled against it. He found a way around it. Not really, but he's on record as having found a way around it. And so you got to give Judge Silverman credit that he didn't make such a fool of himself as Judge Broderick did. Broderick had just as simple and clear-cut a decision before him as Judge Silverman did. And you have to give Judge Silverman credit that he did not get swayed by Kalaji's sick attempt to prove that cable operators had more freedom of speech because of the must-carry decision just handed down by the United States Supreme Court. Judge Silverman is in the New York Supreme Court. Somebody at church, I told you that, election time will be time to get justice. That was Dirty Pool to stay his own judgment. And where is the undertaking that Cablevision defendants should put down for a stay? And Kalaji must have known he was going to lose. He had the stay application already. It was rigged the way Silverman granted it before the hearing was over. It was almost as if Kalaji had told Silverman. And Kalaji said emphatically, I repeat to you, there's no dispute of facts. Silverman, and it goes without saying, Kalaji also was downright insulting to Glendora, both about pro se and about the content of Glendora's program. Glendora, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on Channel 8 TCI, which is the country's largest cable company. Cablevision isn't even there. They're about, I don't know how far down they are. Let's see, who are they now? They change and they merge and they buy and they sell so much. Let's see, the biggest one is TCI, the second one is Time Warner. And I guess now the third one would be Comcast now, who merged with Cox. Kalaji was busting his chops, and it is not fair that Silverman let him ramble on so aimlessly and so deceitfully. Particularly for letting Kalaji speak first when he's only the defendant. The plaintiff speaks first. Silverman showed prejudice again by immediately granting the stay from the bench. Silverman is wrong that negligence is not a New York tort. Well, he didn't say it wasn't a New York tort. He said that I didn't show a cause of action, but that's wrong. By the time Glendora finished the New York statutes and the CPLR, when I'm reading them, you know, she will know the law better than either of them. Silverman said money is not important. Court decision. It was 11 weeks after the April 22nd return date. Silverman was wrong and prejudiced, saying that Glendora suffered no damages. It is awful the way Silverman blocked discovery and the trial by jury. The temporary restraining order is lifted. The case is over, because Silverman said so. Glendora said when she finished, consummato est, and Silverman said what? And Glendora said consummato est. That's an old pro se term. It is Latin for it is finished. Jesus Christ said it on the cross. Silverman said to Glendora, he's appealing it. He seemed glad that Kalaji was appealing it. Silverman wanted Cablevision to win, I think. Glendora said when Silverman said money is not important, there's nothing more important than money. But of course, I don't mean it quite that way. Glendora never wants Silverman for a judge again. It is too bad. We've been friends for 3 years, or ever since Silverman, Glendora monitored him every day for weeks for the fun of modern courts. The administrative judge in Gracia is anti pro se and said so in the newspaper, but in Gracia knows enough not to sign a TRO, and Silverman doesn't. Silverman was wrong not to talk about prime time. Silverman was wrong not to order make goods. A friend Glendora reported it too, said simply crazy. Why did Silverman want the courtroom empty? Did he expect fireworks from Glendora? Did he want to cover up the bad he was doing? It is not the kind of America Franklin went to D-Day for 50 years ago. Silverman was silent on costs. This means Glendora can apply for them $240 and the minutes $84. Glendora is going to make a combat badge. I was cited for contempt by Judge Silverman for standing up for my rights. Okay. Okay, I think that's really it. It's sort of a landmark decision, I think. Isn't this the first time that the public access peg rule in New York State has been challenged? I don't know. Kalaji under oath, because Kalaji was telling lies. Papers that under penalty of perjury, that he's telling the truth. Kalaji doesn't do that. Can't all let him get away with it. Appellate division down in Brooklyn, when he heard about this, he said, and there's a whole lot of meaning in this, he says, I can tell you that's quite an accomplishment. You were very successful. Somebody in the Supreme Court, the New York State Supreme Court, says you covered yourself well, very well, and that it would have been very bad publicity to go through with a contempt. And I asked somebody else, did I put up a good fight? And the person said, definitely. It was good that the law clerk was on vacation. Silverman had to think. And I believe that's all. And this is the, it was out on the bulletin board outside the courtroom. It's the calendar of cases Silverman called ahead that day. The time on Cablevision this week was 10 hours. Transportation comes up here on Greenridge Avenue, across the street. And they park these Lincoln Town cars. And they really are, in essence, operating a business out of a residential neighborhood. Their two-way radios are very loud. The drivers are loud and boisterous. They certainly don't look like the type who should be driving a Lincoln Town car. They're not well dressed, and they're really gruff and rough and ready. And that's Kelly Transportation. And last year, a good policeman came over here and chased them out of here. But they're defiant. They defy the law. They are not from this country originally. They all have accents. And they come here and they break the laws. And so this year, they're coming back. One of them has a great big long van, long white van. And as I say, there's several Lincoln Town cars. Now, let's get on here to some jokes. Charlie was talking about 3D movies, and his conclusion, folks, is that 3D movies lack depth. And Annette went to the door, and she said to the man at the door, but I didn't send for a piano tuner. And the man at the door says, no, ma'am, the people next door did. And the father says, stop practicing that clarinet or I'll go crazy. And the boy said, Dad, I stopped 2 hours ago. David says that he sings like a prisoner, 8 bars behind, and looking for the key. The reply brief, this costs $30 to print and bind and gag. And it is To the United States Court of Appeals, the Second Circuit, Glendora, plaintiff, against Gannett. These are the defendants. Company Incorporated, Gannett Suburban Newspapers, John Curley, Gary Watson, Douglas McCorkindale, Gary Sherlock, Kenneth Paulson. The district court initials are the Southern District of New York. The district court docket number is 93 Civil 5561. The district court judge is Vincent L. Broderick. This is appellant's reply brief. Glendora Pro Se, Box 416, White Plains, 914-949-9495. Robert M. Kalaji, Esquire, Sadley, Stevens, Burke & Burke, 230 Park Avenue, New York, New York, 10169, 212-819-92. I think it's so stupid. You call up and you ask for Mr. Stevens, he's deceased. You ask for Mr. Sadley, he's deceased. You call up for Mr. So-and-so, why don't they take it out of the phone book? Point Alpha, Glendora, defendants, appellees, lawyers, statement of facts is a statement of lies. Professional pro se plaintiff is an opinion and does not belong in a statement of facts. Why is this in quotes? Whom is Kalaji quoting? Pro se is a constitutional right. Lawyer Kalaji and Monopoly Gannett defiled the Constitution. Gannett has committed long-running violations of plaintiff appellant's rights, breach of contract, libel, and antitrust. Maybe you will be the court that stops Gannett's greedy management from overrunning American rights. Point beta. Kalaji's statement of facts is, in truth, a statement of lies. He does this repeatedly. He's a discredit. Well, they're all discredits. I was going to say to being a lawyer in the law schools, but everybody's a discredit to that who's in this profession or in this greedy business. Both statements below are lies. Kalaji says that Glendora combines a venting of her perceived grievances against Gannett with references to the Sherman and Clayton Acts. I think it's a little more than that. I sued Gannett for violating the Sherman and Clayton Acts. Point Gamma, figure do not lies. Kalaji says that Gannett doesn't have over 50% of the circulation. Glendora replies, is this a lie? The figures add up to more than 50%. Kalaji does not include any proof that the figures add up differently. Point Delta, Kalaji says that Glendora says that puts the advertising rates, both the classified and the display advertising, out of the reach of so many people, and that the Sunday paper is over $1. Glendora wanted to advertise Glendora TV ads in the newspaper with over 50% circulation, but the monopolistic greedy prices of Curley had all precluded it. Kalaji writes, although it is not clear which newspaper plaintiff is referring to, that's stupid, and it's also a lie and a cover-up. This is not a bright thing to write. Glendora says she is referring to any Gannett Sunday paper in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties. They are all over $1, and they are all the same. Point Zeta, all the other newspapers are worth $1. Gannett is not. That price is too much. They get it because they are a monopoly. Now the Sunday paper is $1.50. It's gone up 50% since this lawsuit. That is greed. The value is not there, but the monopoly is. People have no choice. Point Eta, plaintiff does allege a conspiracy among defendants to control the prices. It's a lie to say that she didn't. By gobbling up all of the newspapers in all of the cities of Westchester, Putnam, and Rockland, with very few exceptions, defendants became a greedy monopoly with no competition and can charge whatever they choose, all in violation of the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act. Quote, illegal the practice of acquisition of competing companies by one company. That's quoted by in the Sherman and Clayton Act. And that's in page 17 of Glendora's appellate brief. This is what Gannett does. It's illegal. The Sherman Act made it illegal, and the Clayton Act made it illegal, the practice of acquisition of competing companies by one company. And that's exactly what Gannett did. Broderick knows that. Kalaji knows that. Gannett knows that. Curley knows that. McCorkindale, Sherlock, and Paulson and Watson, they know that. Eliminating competition through consolidation also made possible monopoly prices and thus excessive profits and large financial gains for those who organized and financed the consolidations. That's Gannett, and that's the defendants. Point Theta. Glendora does allege conspiracy among defendants to control the prices of all newspapers in the area. They gobbled up all of the dailies, didn't they? You live here. You know that. Defendants' lawyers ever do not tell the truth when they write. In any event, the plaintiff alleges no conspiracy among defendants to control the prices of all newspapers in the area. That's stupid, and that's a lie. Infer is ridiculous, like all of defendants' lawyers' papers, nor does she allege that she ever purchased the Gannett Sunday newspaper. Isn't that silly? That's how silly Kalaji gets, how puerile Kalaji gets, or that she has been injured by the price. Of course she purchased a Sunday paper and was ripped off. She had no choice for local news and local classified because defendants are monopolies. And of course she was injured by the price, like the rest of the residents of Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam. Point iota. Plaintiff injuries because of Gannett monopoly are all true. Now this is what Kalaji writes, and he's copying from my complaint, and what he's writing is true. She further complains that because of Gannett's alleged monopoly, Gannett is not fair in printing letters to the editor, since they did not print 8 such letters that she submitted. True. And that Gannett does not cover the vital happenings of the Harrison, New York town board meeting. That's true. Because of the supposed monopoly, she alleges that a person cannot get a fair trial in Westchester County against Gannett because judges are afraid of Gannett and rule in its favor to avoid retaliation. That's true. Point kappa. That Glendora was, that's Roberta Walsh, a harassment, intent to annoy and alarm. Point kappa. That Glendora was denied justice in 4 courts is proof that Gannett's monopoly intimidates judges. 1. Lawyer's statement below does not belong in a statement of facts. Apparently a reference to her 2 earlier unsuccessful suits against Gannett. That does not belong in a statement of facts. The antitrust of Gannett prevents a judge from any rebuttal or any other forum except Gannett at election time for that all-important newspaper political endorsement. Point lambda. Plaintiff appellant's complaints are sufficient to state a cause of action under the antitrust law. And here is the Sherman Act, Section 4. That any person who shall be injured in his business, and you too, or property by reason of anything forbidden in the antitrust laws, may sue therefore in any district court of the United States, in the district in which the defendant resides, or is found, or as an agent, without respect to the amount in controversy, and shall recover 3-fold the damages by him sustained and the cost of the suit. Defendants' lawyers write 3 more lies in their so-called statement of facts. Here's one. She failed to establish that even if defendants had monopoly power, which they do not, that's a lie, they do, and had engaged in monopolization, that's a lie, and he says, which they have not, that's a lie, they have, that she would have standing to bring suit against the under the Sherman and Clayton Acts. Well, I certainly do, just read it to you. A, defendants do have monopoly power because they clearly are a monopoly. B, defendants have and still do engage in monopolization. Anybody can see that it is so. Glendora does have standing pursuant to Section 4 of the Sherman Act. We are here appealing the very, very, very bad decision of Judge Vincent L. Broderick, United States District Court, Southern District of New York, here in White Plains. We are refuting the lies here of Robert M. Kalaji, a lawyer who was paid to lie. Point mu. The instant appeal, Kalaji writes, is a mere continuation of plaintiffs' harassing litigation against these defendants. Now I ask you, is that a proper statement for a statement of facts? It is not harassing. Harassing, and Kalaji can never learn the meaning of harassing, is, quote, intent to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. Defendants' lawyer flatter themselves for thinking Glendora is interested enough in them to annoy and alarm. Glendora has a legitimate purpose, antitrust. She was injured by defendants' monopolization on the courts, on the counts of overpricing in classified advertising and display advertising. She was injured by overpricing in advertising, the cost of the Sunday paper, the antitrust disregard for form and letters to the editor, antitrust influence on judges' decisions, and the other causes of actions in her complaint. Point new. Saying Glendora's complaint is baseless is another lie in defendant's so-called statement of facts. Their statement of facts is baseless. Point Omicron. Judge Broderick was wrong in his prejudice to dismiss Glendora's case, just as he was wrong to dismiss her case when Cablevision broke a federal law. Cablevision also broke a state law, much like the federal law the company broke, and Judge Silverman in Westchester Supreme Court ruled against Cablevision, as Judge Broderick should have in federal court. Point Psi. As a matter of law, Glendora should have won the Gannett case, and the law is the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act. Gannett defendants did what John Sherman wrote. Sought to avoid competition by combining the controlling corporations in the same business and placing the power and property of the combination under the government of a few individuals and often under the control of a single man called a trustee. Well, this single man, he's not single, he's married, is John J. Curley, the CEO, president, and chairman of Gannett, all three chairs. And he is the person in control. I've told you before about his salaries and his bonuses and his benefits. And that's a matter of fact. The law, there's the Sherman law and the Clayton law that they broke, and the fact is that they bought up all the newspapers in Westchester County, practically. Point Pi. The matter of law is that the Sherman Act made monopolization illegal. The Sherman Act made agreements in restraint of trade and monopolization. And it's subject to the civil remedies and criminal penalties in actions by the Department of Justice and to treble damages actions in private suits. Point Rho. Defendant's lawyer's statement of facts is a statement of lies and should be struck from the record pursuant to federal laws of civil procedure. Further, they should be sanctioned. Point Sigma. Plaintiff appellant has standing to sue for antitrust violations. Kalaji repeats himself. We've already covered that point, haven't we? The Sherman Act, Section 4. There it is, quoted again, the one I just read you. Point Tau. Plaintiff sustained and still sustains a distinct and palpable injury, and several of them. Classified advertising prices are out of reach. Display advertising prices are out of reach. Not getting the local news, not hearing both sides, cannot get a fair decision from a judge, due process denied, no letters to the editor, paying too much for the Sunday paper, and others. See pages 97 to 102 of the appellant's brief and appendix. Point Upsilon. Plaintiff appellant traces the injury to the antitrust and monopolization of defendants. See pages 97 to 102 of the appellant's brief and appendix. It's very clear in there. And he just lies that this didn't happen. Point 5. The injury will be redressed by a favorable decision from you three judges that will: 1. Grant an injunction restraining defendants from inordinate unfairness in refusing to print letters to the editor. Grant an injunction restraining defendants from inordinate increases in newsstand prices. Grant an injunction restraining the defendants from failing to cover both sides of a story. Grant an injunction restraining the defendants from superficial, sloppy, insufficient, irresponsible news gathering and news coverage. Again, who are these defendants? Gannett Suburban Newspapers, Gannett Company Incorporated, John Curley, Gary Watson, Douglas McCorkindale, Gary Sherlock, Kenneth Paulson. Grant an injunction restraining defendants from inordinate increase in charges for classified advertising. Grant an injunction restraining defendants from inordinate increases in charges for display advertising. Grant an injunction restraining defendants from compelling advertisers to pay for coverage beyond the areas they need. Grant an injunction restraining defendants from denying the public true and fair coverage of judicial proceedings so that judges criticized will have a forum and for redress. Reverse Judge Broderick's wrong decision. Award plaintiff treble damages of $600,000 from defendants because it's a direct result of defendants' monopoly or attempted monopoly or conspiracy to monopolize the market for news as described above. Plaintiff was injured to the extent of $200,000 and is entitled under Title 15 United States Code, Section 15, to treble damages. And further, that judgment be entered in favor of plaintiff against defendants in the amount of $600,000, representing threefold the damages suffered by the plaintiff. The court allowing that the defendants be required to pay the full cost of the suit incurred by plaintiff in accordance with Title 15 United States Code, Section 14. Plaintiff be granted such other and further relief as the court shall deem just, proper, and equitable in these circumstances. Point Chi. Citations of defendant's lawyer work as much against appellees as they do for the appellant. The citations that, of other cases that Kalaji gives work as much against him as they do for the appellant. Plaintiff appellant has standing to invoke the jurisdiction of the District Court and the United States District Court of Appeals pursuant to the Sherman Act, Section 4, and there it is again, folks. Suffered antitrust injury. For lawyer Kalaji to assert Glendora suffered no antitrust injury is wrong. The injuries are listed pellucidly on pages 97 to 102 of appellant's brief and appendix. Point Omega on page 4 of appellee's brief. What is the following a quote from? To assert a private cause of action for violation of the federal antitrust laws, quote, a plaintiff must have some showing of actual injury attributed to something that the antitrust laws were damaged to prevent. Well, I showed all that in my complaint, and I showed all of that in my cross motion. Point Alpha Alpha, Glendora did show her injury was caused by defendant's appellee's violation of the antitrust laws of the Sherman and Clayton Acts. See pages 97 to 102 of appellant's brief and appendix. Citations Trout, Zenith, and Atlantic do not argue for appellees but for appellant. The district court improperly concluded, and no considering of plaintiff's complaint literally was necessary, that Glendora did not have a prima facie antitrust case against Curley, Watson, McCorkindale, Sherwood, Paulson, Gannett Suburban, and Gannett Company. See Section 7 and 15 of the Sherman Act. And there they are, all quoted. That no corporation engaged in commerce shall acquire directly or indirectly the whole or any part of the stock or other share capital, and no corporation subject to the jurisdiction of the Federal Trade Commission will acquire the whole or any part of the assets of another corporation engaged also in commerce. And that's what Gannett did. That's a violation of the antitrust laws. Point Beta Beta, lawyer Kalaji writes another lie. Sufficient to give standing again, but I've already succeeded in that. Judge Broderick and Magistrate Judge Fox for personal prejudice and against due process failed. Point Gamma Gamma, both Judge Broderick and Judge Fox, who work in Westchester, know existentially that defendants are antitrust and are monopolistic. The papers they wrote are a discouraging record of public disgrace. Kalaji writes that the thrust of her claim is that Gannett has a dominant market position in the 3 counties it publishes in, specifically over 50% of the market, and that this is a monopoly. Yes, that's right. That's exactly what I claim, and that's exactly the way it is. Point Delta Delta, defendants' appellees obtained the high market share through anti-competitive behavior established by credible facts. Merely look at 2 pages from the Gannett annual report the shareholder received in March 1994. See pages 79 and 80 of appellant's brief. And there it lists how Gannett bought up all of these newspapers. The newspaper in Mount Vernon, the newspaper in Rochelle, the newspaper in Yonkers, the newspaper in White Plains, the newspaper in Harris, or Rye, Harrison, or whatever. Point Epsilon Epsilon, Judge Broderick did not dismiss Glendora's complaint because it is deficient, quote unquote. Judge Broderick dismissed the complaint since it is deficient in regard to any actual or threatened injury, he claimed. But Judge Broderick dismissed Glendora's complaint because he does not like Glendora, because Glendora kept telling everybody he was taking too long, also because he is anti-pro se and anti-female and pro-big business. And when Cablevision broke a state law and a similar federal law, the state ruled that Glendora had a statutory right to have her cable TV program returned to the cable, but Judge Broderick, even when faced with Cablevision's breaking a federal law on the same thing. ruled against Glendora. Judge Broderick has cut a bad record. The Spectrum decision does not fit Glendora's case at all. Point zeta zeta. Plaintiff appellant bought files of classified advertising and had to stop, plaintiff appellant Glendora bought piles of classified advertising and had to stop because the price was so high and because she had to pay for coverage areas she did not want. Defendant's appellee's lawyer writes, or has she alleged that she has even bought a Sunday paper or been harmed by its price of over $1. This is the bottom of the barrel, Glendora writes. What do you call free lawyers at the bottom of the ocean? Answer, a good start. What does the following on page 5 of appellee's memorandum mean? Plaintiff alleged neither the status of competitor or consumer in the market. It's just a lie, a ridiculous lie, but it's a matter of record. He lied. Point eta eta. Kalagi is always assuming things about Glendora and then irresponsibly sets down such assumptions as truth. He writes, this is what Kalagi writes now. This is a lie, and it's an assumption, and he's trying to get the court to think it's the truth. Apparently divining from the district court's decision the type of allegations needed to proceed on a private cause of action for violation of the antitrust laws, plaintiff belatedly seeks to bolster the deficiencies in her complaint by alleging additional facts. Reference to a help wanted ad she may have placed. There's another lie in a Gannett paper in 1987 and 1988 that was way above what she had ever paid before. Just look it up in the record, in the Gannett's records. Specifically, that it cost more than a classified ad in Buffalo. And Glendora replies to this. It was out of this experience with Gannett in trying to run a business and hire good people, along with the other injuries cascaded upon her by ruthless monopolistic Gannett, that Glendora initiated her antitrust lawsuit against Curley, Watson, McCork, and Darrell Sherlock, Paulson, Gannett Suburban, and Gannett's Company. Kalagi has the effect before the cause. He always gets things backwards. In Buffalo, where we had competition, you could get 10 words for $10. Isn't that nice? If she ever bought a Sunday paper is another bubble from the bottom of the ocean. Of competition, the classified rates would have been lower, just as news coverage would have been more thorough, just as letters to the editor would have been accepted more reasonably, just as display advertising would have been priced reasonably, just as the news coverage would have been on both sides, just as judges could have another forum and another chance for political endorsement, just as it would be a competitive marketplace, as Ann Bingaman, Assistant United States Attorney in charge of antitrust, says we should have, and just as the Sherman and Clayton wrote that we should have. And if these are